Since its founding in 1988, Capital One has grown to become one of the largest financial institutions in the entire nation. Using its information-based strategy, Capital One revolutionized the credit card industry by bringing choice into the hands of consumers when it came to credit cards. Now, over 20 years later, Capital One has the opportunity to revolutionize the industry once again. This time, through direct banking. Good afternoon, my name is Michelle Zhu, and I'm here with my colleagues David Bradlick, Hunter McDonald, and Soren Hansen. And our team wants to tell you today about how Capital One can leverage direct banking and empower customers to take control, both of who they're banking with and how they do it. We'll walk you through the company's position within the industry and then tell you about our three-pronged solution for Capital One in direct banking. Now, when we think about the banking industry today, we see that it's an industry of stagnant growth, and it's an industry of low consumer sentiments. Customers don't really know how to differentiate between all of the different products that all of the banks are able to offer. And they don't really trust big banks either. We see stagnant revenues over the past several years, and all of this in the context of a rapidly changing technological world. People are adopting technological innovations faster than ever, and the way that is translated into the banking industry is that we've seen a rise in direct banking. In fact, direct banking is actually the only segment that in banking that has actually seen growth in new relationships over the past several years. And so, even though customer adoption is still low at the moment, we believe that direct banking is the path to the future. And we believe that Capital One has the flexibility, the scale, and the brand image to lead that future. Capital One doesn't have to rely on the traditional fees and retail branches that other competitors do. It has become the #1 leader in direct banking since its acquisition of ING Direct, and it has the likable brand image and the contemporary brand image to lead customers and inspire them to adopt direct banking. And so because Capital One has these capabilities, we believe that Capital One can and should improve, support, and grow direct banking and inspire customers to join the revolution. So now I'll pass it off to David to talk to you about our first couple steps of our solution.
Through the acquisition of ING Direct in 2011, Capital One became the largest direct bank in the country. In 2013, they rebranded the service as Capital One 360. Now, even though they have the retail branches and Capital One 360, and they offer similar services, they're still treated as fundamentally different systems. So direct banking is the future for Capital One. And in order to make this happen, we have to be sure that direct banking is a better substitute to retail banking across the board. As you can see, there are currently some services and perks that are offered to retail banking customers that do not translate to the direct banking realm. These more relate to customer service, answering customer questions, and providing assistance. However, through a revolutionary new video conferencing tool that we are advocating for, we will be able to inspire customers to convert to direct banking, answer their questions through the entire process, and reach them on an unprecedented level. This will be made available to direct customers on their mobile platforms and also online. Since this is such a crucial part of our strategy going forward, we need to drop the transitional 360 brand, and we need to instead have it fall under the Capital One Bank name. But we cannot stop there. In order to emphasize that traditional banking is a thing of the past, we will need to change the name of the product offering of retail banks to Capital One Classic. And we will follow technology innovations towards the integration of technology in everyone's lives very closely with substantial technology investment. We will provide a bunch of new technology services to our customers to make sure that our direct banking product is the best one out there. With an improved product, we're going to be taking this nationwide. And in order to do that, we have to have adequate support for both our customers and our product. Currently, we have retail locations in 9 states and Capital One 360 cafes in select cities across the country. But this is not an adequate footprint for national expansion. So what we are advocating for is the rollout of national financial literacy centers in highly dense areas across the country. These centers are meant for low-frequency visits that are very impactful, such as teaching financial literacy classes to the community, teaching customers how they can transition to direct banking and helping them along the process, and also providing guidance with wealth management and loan support. In the era of big banks that are perceived to care more about profits than customers, Capital One, through their financial literacy centers, will be the bank that has their customers back. We also need to take advantage of our retail network to be able to support our transition to direct banking. We are not going to touch the physical structures at the moment, but we will be altering the service model within each of the branches. We will make sure that our representatives are teaching customers to become self-sufficient with their finances and making sure to encourage the discussion of direct banking. We also be pinpointing certain customers who rarely use branches in the first place and asking them if they would like to take advantage of the lower fees and the higher interest rates that they can get with direct banking. By improving our product and by supporting it nationwide, we can now begin to grow our product and reach a national audience. I will now pass it off to Hunter, who will tell you just about how we're going to do this.
Thanks, David. So we need to make sure that customers are launched right into direct banking. One of the most interesting things we found in our research was that the 18 to 24 market is more underserved than the 75 and up market. This means my grandmother is more likely to have a direct bank than I am. So we believe it's very important that we get people to adopt the direct banking model as soon as possible. So the way we're going to do this is first through financial literacy programs in high schools. We're going to target high schools nearby our financial literacy centers and have customer representatives go out and train people on financial literacy and make sure that they know that Capital One is the place to go for direct banking and a place to learn how to be financially literate. Next, at the college level, we're going to be introducing sponsorships and sporting events and concerts and offer people a sweepstakes entry if they sign up for direct banking through Capital One. And then finally, as they're growing up, we want to make sure that we continue to communicate with them, and as they grow, we're going to grow with them. So we're going to offer them home loans, we're going to offer them car loans, we're going to make sure that even when they get their first job, we send them a credit card offer, because we want to make sure that we have their back every step of their lives. So next, we also need to roll out a marketing campaign to make people aware of the fantastic direct banking opportunities Capital One provides. So not only will this target people at other retail banks, it will also target existing Capital One credit card customers and make them realize that now they can unify their credit card and their bank, which will make their system a lot easier to manage. So first, we need to raise awareness of the problems with retail banking as well as the fantastic solution that is direct banking. So we're going to roll out and advertise a new national media campaign called #FMB, which stands for Forget My Bank. And next, we're going to ask people, we're going to have our spokesperson Samuel L. Jackson address these issues that will raise an FMB campaign and say, well, hey, the solution to your issues and your bad experiences in retail banks is direct banking through Capital One, and here's why. Finally, we're going to lead the revolution. We're going to roll out a massive ad campaign that will support the release of a switching tool that will make people be able to switch to Capital One in one stop efficiently and effectively. So we need to make it easier for people to switch banks. So consumer sentiments about switching show that up to 19% of people who considered switching last year, 63% didn't because it was just too difficult to do it. So we need to make sure to remove these barriers to transition and make sure that everything is simple, easy, safe, and can be done online or even at a financial literacy center. So this will take 4 steps. First, we need to transfer their balance over to the new account. Then we need to make sure any of their recurring bills are reconciled with their new account. So, for example, their electric payments are paid on time in the new account. And also make sure that any outstanding checks they have do not balance or cause an overdraft on their old account. Finally, we'll give them a summary page to show them exactly how much money they've saved and exactly how much money they're making because of better interest rates through direct banking. Now I'll hand it off to Soren to discuss implementation of this plan.
Thank you, Hunter. So now that we've gone through what our improved support and grow plan is, we need to focus on how we're going to be implementing this. So at the very start, we need to focus on what we're doing internally, on how we're merging the current systems between 360 and Capital One, while at the same time developing new tools and starting to build these financial literacy centers. Then down the road, once we're prepared to roll out these new tools, and once we've integrated all the systems, that's when we launch our marketing campaign. And then throughout this, when we get to the large-scale media event, where we talk about switching, we release a new switching tool. When we look at the financial impact of these solutions, the first thing we did was break out the cost side between building new literacy centers, our marketing initiatives, and then finally our IT growth. We also looked at the revenue side and how many customers we thought we could get. We targeted 1 out of 500 of each of the big 4 banks' customers to switch and projected them out with the lifetime value of their savings account to see that we need 475,000 customers to break even, and we projected that by getting 1 in 500, we get 1.6 million. But the reality is that getting these customers in the pipeline is worth so much than just their savings account, as some of these customers may be looking to get credit cards or even loans going forward. So it's important to look at how this affects the customers. By improving, supporting, and growing, we're affecting each of the different customers in the market. So first of all, for those that are currently using direct banking, what we're doing is simply improving the service that they already have. We're giving them more options and more things that they can do. In addition, our current Capital One customers, we're giving them more choice in how they bank with us by allowing them to quickly go branchless. They can choose what services they want, what rates, and what fees. In addition, we look at new customers entering the market in the 18 to 24 demographic. We're giving them more information. We think the big reason that direct banking isn't catching on is because not enough people know about it. And then finally, when we look at other bank customers, we're giving them more choice, but more choice in who they bank with. It's so tough to switch right now, but by implementing the switching tool, we give them more. Richard Fairbank never wanted to create just another big bank. He wanted to do it differently, with technology. When Capital One opened, it provided something new to the credit card market. People were able to customize their options and choose what they wanted. Now, over 20 years later, we're presented with another stagnant industry, one that's looking for something different. And by giving customers empowering more choice, in not only how they bank, but in addition with who they bank, we can start a revolution, and we can change banking for good. Thank you.
There, my first question is, you guys talk about having the rollout of the Capital One Classic brand and repurposing the Capital One National brand. Have you guys thought at all about, like, brand equity is something that is an intangible value that companies have, and by repurposing that brand, there's potential pitfalls of having that. Have you thought about, like, what that switch, like the cost of switching, I guess, and change our brand strategy would be for the company?
Sure. So if you look at the impact of having a strategy, we're currently in 9 states as a retail bank, but we're nationwide as a credit card company. When you're thinking about the brand as a whole, we want this direct bank to be the main focus, just like credit cards nationwide is. So we understand that there are people currently in our retail banks, and we value those customers very much. But at the same time, Classic doesn't necessarily have negative connotations, but it more accurately describes what the product is. It's the classic retail banking service, whereas this banking Capital One bank service is something that's nationwide like the rest of our Capital One brand. So by that way, we're kind of aligning our brand together.
Well, thank you for your presentation. I'd like to touch a little bit on the financial side. So if I understand you correctly, you're proposing that you want to drop the 360 brand, which the company probably spent a lot of money to build. You want to create a new brand, which you're going to spend a lot more money to build. You want to go branchless, which is not only an expense, but probably an opportunity to reach your existing customer. Can you explain how do you plan to recoup all those expenses and investments and explain to the shareholder how you're going to make the investments from returns from all those investments you make? Thank you.
Okay, so if you can go to the cost of commercial campaign appendix slide, we can talk a little bit about the creative cost. So we broke this out. We figured we might have a certain number of exposures to make sure that people are aware of Capital One Bank as a direct bank. So that side of it, it's $115 million total. It's fairly expensive, but we want to make sure that we generalize that brand equity that Capital One has to the national scale. And the way we're going to do this is through a strong media campaign. In terms of the cost of transitioning the brands themselves, I think this is the fundamental cost in that regard. If you can click the Washington University example, just that'll bring you back to you can discuss the, sorry, did you ask me about the IT software and like sure.
With regards to transitioning out the 360 brand, because they had to build that when they transitioned from ING Direct, they need to provide ING customers with an adequate vehicle towards the new brand without reducing the number of customers that were there. Because when you have a bank merger, your biggest concern is losing your present customers. So we view that 360 brand only as a transitional brand. And as we move forward towards that being the central focus of banking with Capital One, every day that we keep that 360 brand, it will be more and more expensive to remove it. However, the value of removing it is immense because you are then focusing on what truly is the future of Capital One banking. It's online, and it should have the keynote brand of Capital One Bank.
Well, I guess my question was more on the financial side of when you're trying to sell to the shareholders such an expensive, large amount of investment for a rollout. How do you make sure that they get their money back and you can actually have return on top of those money that you already spent? If you can maybe elaborate a little more on how do you recruit or how do you drive the revenue from this new direction?
Sure. So on the revenue side, what we wanted to focus on was acquisition of new customers. So the idea currently of how branches or banks kind of expand is by mostly going in and acquiring new branches in a certain region, which is very costly and expensive to do, but that's the best way to grow your brand currently. The idea of this is that these are kind of all the fixed costs that you're putting in, and then now because it is a direct bank, you can get revenue just by simply switching over customers. So we're going to be targeting these advertisements to both grow the customers as well as the ability to spread nationwide without actually having to acquire branches nationwide. So we think because it's such a large audience, I mean, we focused on 800 million exposures over national advertising in our marketing campaign. We really think we can hit this. I mean, the break even is 450,000 customers right now. And we think that that's very doable with the Capital One brand as it currently is. And as customers who have our credit card, maybe even just they would want to switch. And we think it's very doable in terms of hitting these revenue marks.
So the direct banking strategy follows nicely from our acquisition of ING, it's the largest online presence. But I'm a bit worried about and when I have a question about your research on where and how online banking or direct banking is going to grow that higher percentage. So online banking has been around for 10 years, not a new concept. I think it's more than just not enough people know about it. The trajectory of direct banking has been much lower than retail banking, and retail banking dwarfs the size of online. The online banking is much, much smaller as a percentage of banking. So given there's such a large base already doing retail banking, there's a low percentage of direct banking. What does your research show that says we can do any better at that than anybody else has the next 10 years? How does this strategy give us a force multiplier on direct banking?
I'm not sure if we've multiplied, but if you go to the slide about direct banking demographics, it's under customer information. Oh, I'm sorry. Back to it's direct banking.
It's account openings and closing by channel.
Yes.
It's at the very top.
Sorry, account openings and
Right.
closing session. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So the research that we showed, in fact, the graph that we showed you in the very beginning of the presentation, actually demonstrates that direct banking is where we've seen the most growth in new relationships, whereas in the other channels, whether it be traditional large big financial institutions versus regional banks, those have actually seen more stagnant increases. So we sort of believe that this has more potential for the future, and that's why we think that that's sort of the direction to go.
Did you all think about how technology is going to change over the next few years and how that changes the view of the world as it is today versus where we're going to be 5 years from now? And how does that change the answer in preference to that banking?
Yes, if we could go to new technologies, please, under new product strategy. So we highlighted a couple key new technologies that we'll be rolling out in the next couple of years. So you look at some of the recent trends in payment, such as near-field communication and the payment techniques there with Apple Pay, Google Wallet, all of that. That is something that we need to consider, and we need to decide whether is Capital One going to be the brand who is going to provide that service for customers, or is Capital One going to provide it through their credit cards, through a secondary service such as Apple Pay? So what we believe and what we were thinking about is that this is a big technological investment that would be required on Capital One's side. This isn't something that's up their alley. So we would have, through their Capital One app, which would be completely integrating all the new technologies that we are following very closely, we would be able to link it to whatever extra secondary service is being used to pay via near-field communication. There are other things like person-to-person payments is a big one. You see a lot of products coming out about this. It's a very competitive industry, and it's with a lot of growth. However, all financial services companies will provide some sort of service similar to this, and Capital One has a lot of infrastructure very related to this product that will require very minimal technology investment. So those are an example of two of them. We are trying to change direct banking. So banking exists in its current state right now. And by adequate investment in direct banking and driving it forward with the Capital One brand, we do not anticipate that the industry will look anything the same as it does now. And as it goes forward, we will be keeping up with the technology trends, and we're expanding the amount of investment that we put in IT and technology, and that's been reflected in financials, in order to be up in that curve. We've been hiring a lot of IT and tech professionals and poaching from other startups and innovative technology companies, and we believe that we will be on the cusp of technology as it goes forward.
I think it's very clear that 5 years down the road, technology and the way the industry looks is going to be completely different from today. And that's why I think by not expanding our retail locations, there'll be a kind of prohibited cost structure going forward. We really want to be prepared by giving us the flexibility of moving towards direct banking.
Changing gears a little bit and talking about your switching tool proposal, it sounds like there needs to be some collaboration with the client's current bank. How would you get them to go along with this? And then what's the thought other banks are doing something similar, thereby just reducing the overall barriers to switching?
Okay, so you could actually click on this. We mapped out what the kind of process would look like when we were talking through what goes into balance transfer, recurring transaction reconciliation. So what we were imagining is something where we transfer over your bank account balance, immediately the tool will give you a new one, and then we comb through. I think when it comes on the partnership side, we're mostly thinking we can partner with the big issue of switching is when it comes to recurring transactions. So partnering with payment services and direct deposit services, we can make sure you don't have an extra paycheck go to your other bank that you miss out on, or at the same time have a payment set up that goes through and it costs you an overdraft fee. So I know other banks wouldn't be totally open to switching over, and I think that's something to look forward, or to look to into the future. But in reality, if you think of the best product, then you want the barriers to switching to be as low as possible. So if we do think direct banking is the future, then even if our customers could switch to another bank, if you have the best offering, then you're going to win out in the end. And I think if you're going from a position of we don't have the best offering, then something needs to be done internally before you focus on let's stop our customers from switching. And I think it's just kind of opening up the industry, making it more competitive, and once again, just bringing back choice to the beginning.
That's all the time we have for questions.
I think you guys touched on a lot of great points in the questions. I mean, I know the brand image point is actually very impactful. It's going to be, when we were first thinking, we noticed that Capital One 360, just like ING, was its own brand. And the idea is that Capital One should be the only brand. So what we wanted to do is make it almost like a product category as opposed to brands. So we think going forward that everything, whether it's credit cards, direct banking, or direct banking or banking classic, will fall under Capital One. We think direct banking is the future. It currently costs $4 on average to the bank every time a customer goes into a retail location, as opposed to 10 cents online. And currently 75% of interactions, even with retail banks, are done online. We think at the same time, the way that Capital One can grow, we don't think acquisition is a good way to go going forward. We think it has its limitations in that you do need a national branch presence, and that's simply too prohibitive on the cost side, as well as on the flexibility going forward to take as a plan. And so finally, we want to focus on how Capital One can differentiate itself. We think banking is something that currently right now, as customers say, it's wholly undifferentiated among products. And we want to change that. We want to say that we're different from these big banks because we're more flexible. We don't have to deal with these 6,000 branches that Wells Fargo has and figure that into our cost structure, we're thinking about the next customer who wants to join online. And at the same time, we're more prepared than all the other direct banks out there due to the scale, the brand image we get from our credit cards, and just the technology focus that Capital One has always had. By implementing our improved support and grow plan, we can prepare the customers for the future by giving them more choice and opening up the industry and change banking.